Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyat Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. And we will now move on to chapter 3. Now chapter 3 is titled as Karma Yoga. Now Karma Yoga is actually explaining how to actually work in this world and connect that work with or connect that work to the Supreme Lord by offering the results of the work to Him. So that is Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga means working in this world and connect that work to the Supreme Lord by offering the result of that work to the Supreme Lord. All right. So that is in essence what is the chapter is going to talk about. So there are 43 verses in this chapter. So in chapter 2, Krishna was giving a summary. So he talked about you are not this body, you are a spirit soul. Then he explained various types of yoga systems which are there uh, in Bhagavad Gita. So he gave a summary of Karma Kanda, Karma Yoga, then Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. He talked about, and somewhere he also talked about using Buddhi or Buddhi Yoga in Krishna's service. So while explaining all of that, he also talked about keeping all the abominable actions away. So Durena Yavaram Karma. So that means all the abominable activities we should keep away. So Arjuna is doing selective hearing. So though everything has been mentioned, Arjuna just heard only those topics or those parts in the chapter or in whatever the shlokas that Krishna has spoken about, what was actually going to help him to support his own argument. So he doesn't want to fight. So he just heard that Krishna said that, oh, keep all the abominable activities away. And he's thinking that, oh, if I do a war and kill other people, that is abominable. So Krishna is asking me to keep all the abominable activities away. That is one thing. Then he also talked about a Buddhi Yoga. So Buddhi Yoga, he thought that I have to use my intelligence. If I have to use my intelligence fixed on Krishna, that means I have to go away. If I remain in this material world doing all this war and everything, how can I actually fix my mind on Krishna and my intelligence on Krishna? That means I have to give up all these activities, go to some secluded place, and then do the yoga process, fix my intelligence on Krishna. And that is how then I will be able to progress. And that is what he's thinking that Krishna has told me. But just to clarify, he asked this question in the beginning of the chapter 3. He says, Jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana tatkim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi keshava. So, oh Lord, why do you want to engage me in ghastly activities, which is this war that he's talking about, if you think that intelligence is better than fruity work? So there is actually a fundamental question behind this question or whatever that he has, this question that Arjuna has asked. So many people think that it is not possible to live in this material world, do this, go to the office, then have this family life and have all this responsibility of family life. And then there is so much stress around in our mind because of various things. And at the same time, we can remember Krishna. They think that it is not possible at all. So either we can do this, that I can go to work, I can have family responsibility, and I do all of that, or I stop this and then I do my spiritual duty, and I take Krishna's name and I remember, I focus on that. So they think that it is either or. But this is immature thinking of spirituality. So Arjuna is putting himself in our shoes. He is asking all these questions on our behalf. So he is asking this question that can we actually remain in this world and also remember Krishna at the same time? Basically, this is his question. So then Krishna responds in this remaining 42 verses by explaining Nishkama Karma Yoga. So he's saying that you don't have to leave your work, your home, this battlefield that you are on. Simply offer all the results of your activities to me, and by doing that, you can get liberated. So Karma Yoga is the technique by making spiritual connection with God through your work. So through your work is a tool that you can use for connecting to the Supreme Lord. And how do you connect to the Supreme Lord? Through work. Whatever result that you get, you offer it to the Lord. You don't have attachment to it, and that is how you connect to the Supreme Lord, and that is Nishkam Karma Yoga. But this is very brief. But Krishna has given a very detailed answer, and we will see step by step what he has said. So Krishna is saying, first of all, that soul is very active. So you are a spirit soul. So he has already mentioned that you are not this body, you are a spirit soul. And the soul is very, very active. And that activity is coming out based on the conditioning that we have on the spirit soul. So if we are in mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance, depending on that, these three modes are going to actually force us to do some activity. We cannot remain inactive. So we are going to look at the lower branch first in this diagram. So we are going to be, so Krishna is saying that you are going to be forced to do some activity. And suppose you are this you have this conditioning, and prematurely you try to renounce the activity. So you're on this battlefield and you decide that, okay, I don't want to fight. I will go to the forest and there I will just remember or remember Krishna. But somewhere you will have to eat. And at that time, if you go for begging to some house, and at that time, if someone insults you, then the Kshatriya spirit will come out and you will get your Gandiv and will want to kill them. So that means the material conditioning is going to actually force us to do some activity based on whatever conditioning you have. You cannot actually deny that. So there is no point in prematurely renouncing anything. And what will happen, even if you decide to do that, then you will become a pretender. Lord Krishna says, Karmendriyani Sanyamya ya asate manasa smaran indriyarthan vimudatma mithyachara sauchyate. It will become a mithyachar. You will become a pretender. Why? Outwardly, you have disconnected, or for purpose of like, well, for showing off, you have actually disconnected your senses from your sense objects. So you have restrained your senses of action. But in the mind, you are thinking always about that sense enjoyment. You cannot actually give it up. Then what will happen? As the second chapter, it has been mentioned. Hayato vishayan pumsa sangasteshu pajayate. Sangat sanjayate kama, kamat krodho vijayate. Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibrama. Smriti bhranshat buddhi nasho, buddhi nashat pranashrati. So that is how you will fall down, because you are keep thinking about it, and then automatically whatever you are thinking, that is what you are going to do. And by doing that, then you will fall down. And we see there are many examples that, especially in Kali Yuga, that there are many sadhus or the so-called sadhus, they fall down from their spiritual path because they renounced everything prematurely. So you will become a pretender. And then, of course, there will be no freedom from reaction, and then there will be no perfection for you. So if you renounce prematurely, you will not achieve what you wanted to achieve. But now we are going to this upper branch on this diagram. You are conditioned, soul is active. Instead of prematurely giving up everything, you take the path of Karma Yoga. Now, what does that mean by taking the path of Karma Yoga? So he's explained in the 9th verse. He's saying, Yajnarthyat karmanyonyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sanga samachara. So he's saying that this karma yoga you can do by offering everything as a sacrifice to Lord Vishnu. And by doing this, you will be free from all the reactions of the work. But if you do not do like that, then you will be bound. So all your duty you should do as a satisfaction, or no, so not as, for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. And if you do like that, you will be free from the bondage of law of karma. So if you actually engage your senses like this in karma yoga, then you will get purified. And this will be like a sacrifice um for Lord Vishnu, and then you will become free from reaction. That means you are going to get liberated. So, renouncing prematurely will cause the bondage, whereas without renouncing, just renouncing the attachment that we have for the results of the activity, which means that you are offering it to the Supreme Lord, the results, then you will become free. So one way you will fall down, and with the Nishkam Karma way, you will become you will be actually progressing towards your goal. So how is this connected to the second chapter? So second chapter we saw that this body, we are not this body but the spirit soul. If you think that you are the body, then all your actions will be focused on satisfying your own body or anyone related to this body. So that means these actions you are doing for your own benefit. And when you, I'm saying you means you and your extended you. So if you're doing actions only for satisfaction of you, your family, or your countrymen, or whatever like that, then this is going to bind you by a law of karma. But if you understand that you are spirit soul and you are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, then you will try to re-establish your connectivity with the Supreme Lord. And that is what Krishna is saying, that you have to do that by as a sacrifice to Lord Vishnu, that is himself. And then by doing that, you will be able to actually free up yourself from the results of your activities. So whatever we have, if you have money, you give that to the Lord. If you have some skills, that you can give that to the Lord. If you have intelligence, you have some knowledge, that you can offer it to the Lord. If you have some influence in the society, that you can actually use in service of the Lord. And this will become karma yoga. So Krishna is saying that if you want to renounce something, like Arjuna is saying that I want to renounce my duty and I want to go to forest. So Krishna is saying that if you want to renounce something, then don't renounce your work. Instead, renounce the attachment to the result of the action. Why? Because renouncing action is very difficult. We saw that the premature renunciation, if you do, and then you will fall down. So renouncing action is very difficult. But renouncing the result of the action is relatively easy. So this giving up the result of the action is called sacrifice as well. Now in the beginning, we may be too much attached to enjoyment. And we may be actually doing some sacrifice by worshipping some devatas or demigods, thinking that if I actually give this coconut to this devata, then the devatas will become happy with me and they will fulfill all my desires, or they will remove all the obstacles from my path. Now, there is some sacrifices there. You are giving up something. But here, the main underlying motive is that I want to enjoy myself. So the enjoyment mentality is still there. It is good that we are sacrificing, and this is glorious, and this is definitely going to give us some benefit and some purification. And that is why this is the first step on this the purification, and it is called karma kanda. So Lord Krishna actually gives this step first, saying that At least what we should do is we should offer something to the devatas, and by doing that, you will become little bit purified, and you are not only thinking about yourselves, but you are thinking about someone else who's giving you um, all the rains and grains and whatever like that. So that is how you are worshipping. But your still mentality or consciousness is that I want to enjoy. So that is karma kanda. But instead of offering these sacrifice to devatas, if you start offering that to the Supreme Lord, Krishna himself, Krishna means Krishna, Vishnu, and other incarnations as well, then the same activity, instead of being called as karma kanda, it will be called sakama karma yoga. This has now become yoga. Karma kanda was not yoga. But by offering it to the Supreme Lord, even if you have this mentality of enjoyment, it has become yoga. Why? Because now you are getting connected to the Supreme Lord. And this connection is called yoga. We have seen before. Re-establishing our connectivity with the Supreme Lord is called yoga. And how we connect that, depending on that, we have different processes: karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, ashtanga yoga, like that. So because we have now started connection with the Supreme Lord, this will become sakama karma yoga. But better than that, Lord says, is that do your duty without thinking about your own enjoyment and offering the results of your activity to Krishna. That is Nishkam Karma Yoga. So, what if somebody says that here we have actually had this in the beginning? What options we have? Soul is active, we are conditioned by three modes. But what if I am already liberated? What if I am qualified? So, Krishna answers that question as well. What if I am qualified and purified? So I don't have to actually do any of these. I can actually renounce. It is not a premature renunciation. Because I am already purified, I am able to renounce it properly. What should I do then? Because it's simple. Arjuna is quite advanced in his devotion to Krishna. And because of his advancement on this path of self realization, he can say that, oh, Krishna, you are saying that if you are not purified enough or this or that, that is when you should do this. But I am now qualified. I can actually renounce everything. Then can I renounce? So Krishna says, no, you still cannot renounce. Why? He says, Yad yad acharati shreshthas tad tad evetaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. So in the 21st verse, the Lord has said that whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. Yad yad acharati shreshthas tad tad evetaro janaha. And sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. Whatever standards that this person sets by his exemplary act, all the world pursues it. So that means even if you are qualified to renounce everything, you should not do that. Why? To set a right example for other people to follow. Because you would see in the material world that people do not see whether they are qualified to do the activity. They suppose someone did something. People will say that, oh, such and such person has done that. That is why I can also do it. But they do not see what was the qualification of that person and what is the qualification of me. That person could do that because he was qualified, but I am not qualified. No one thinks like that. So they will think that this person has done it, I will also do it. So people in general will not see their qualification, they will just blindly follow. And for such people, it is better for the qualified people to set right examples. And that is why Sayat Pramanam Kurute Lokastat Anuvartate. So, whatever standards that they will set, the other people will set that as their goal and then they will follow that person. So then Krishna says that, look at me. So Krishna is giving his own example. He says that there is nothing in this world that I want to do or I have to do, but I'm still doing all the activities because if I do not do it, then no one else will do it. They will say that God doesn't do it, I will also not do it because he is setting the standard. And if I do not do it, then what will happen is there will be Varna Sankara. The dharma will be falling down and then there will be Varna Sankara. So Krishna is saying actually, so he is answering this one of the questions or one of the doubts, 5 doubts that Arjuna has given. One of that was all the dynasty will be destroyed, then there will be Varna Sankar will happen, and then all the social and all these things will activities will stop. So Krishna is saying, so Arjuna was saying earlier that if I do my duty and kill all these people, then all of these things are going to happen. But Krishna has again turned that around, and Krishna is saying that if you do not do your duty, then everyone that will become adharma and everyone will actually follow your path. And then because of that, then Varana Sankara will come. Then people will fall down, like Pitras are falling down, and then the social activities will not happen, and all of that. So again, he has answered his one of his doubt. So Arjuna is seeing this, and he's thinking now that, oh, this is a very good and practical way that Krishna has given. But he still asks one more question in verse number 36. And he says that even though we know that this is now a good way to follow, then still, what is it that impels everyone to act in a bad way, in a sinful way? What is it that forces us to do the sinful activities? So Krishna says the answer he gives in this 37th verse. He says, काम एष क्रोध एष रजोगुण समुद्भवः महाशनो महापाप्मा विद्येनमिह वैरिणम्. So he's saying it is lust only, O Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion, and later it transformed into wrath, and which is the all devouring sinful enemy of this world. So it is the lust which drags us into doing the sinful activity. Now, what is lust? Now, in general, uh, in in this current day and age, lust is referred to some sexual activities or whatever. But lust, in Shastric way, it is not only that. Anything that you are trying to do for your own enjoyment, that is lust. And if you actually do for Krishna's enjoyment, that becomes love. So, so root cause, Krishna is saying, of all these problems that we have and that is forcing us to do this sinful activity is lust. So are there different levels of this covering for this lust? So Krishna says he gives 3 levels of covering. He says that just like the embryo is covered by the womb, where we cannot even see the embryo, we can just see some shape is there, and that is a very thick covering. And that is like he has compared that to the bodies of trees. Then there is a covering of like a dust on the mirror. We can see some figure that is there. It is better than what we see of the embryo in the womb, but it is still very, it is not very clear. And that he compares that with the lust in animals. And then he says that the third type is the fire, which is covered by the smoke. Here, the covering is very thin. That you can see some fire, and we can actually rekindle the fire by actually just providing some wind, and then the fire can actually rekindle like that. So, and that he's comparing with human life. So he's trying to say that in human life, it is possible that we can actually conquer this lust. In the animal life, in the tree life, it is very difficult because the covering is very thick. So then, where is this lust sitting in our body? If we want to conquer this enemy, then we need to know where is the lust sitting. So then he compares this body with this like a chariot. Now we have these 5 senses which are compared to the 5 horses. And then these reins which are there, which is controlling the horses, that is compared to the mind. And the charioteer is compared to the intelligence, and the passenger is compared to the soul, whereas the chariot itself is compared to the body. So where is the lust sitting? So he says, Lord Krishna says that it is sitting in 3 places. It is sitting in senses, in our mind, and in our intelligence. And this gives us the key of how to conquer the senses as well. If the lust is sitting here, we need to actually act on these areas to control and conquer the lust. So he gives the 2-way formula. He's saying that we should start from the senses and we should start from the intelligence as well. So what should we do on the senses side? The senses we should try to regulate. If the senses want to enjoy, if you let them enjoy in a very free way, then the lust will actually increase. It is like adding fuel in the fire. But whereas if you actually regulate the senses, then the mind will also get control from this side. And the second way that we can do is from the intelligence end. He's saying, he gives a hierarchy that better than the dull matter, the senses are stronger. But the stronger than senses is the mind. And the stronger than mind is the intelligence. And of course, stronger than intelligence is the spirit soul. So he says that steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence. So you can steady the mind. One way is to regulate the senses, and the other way is to get the spiritual intelligence. And by that, also, we can control the mind. And by doing this, by the spiritual strength, we can conquer the lust. And that is the last verse of Bhagavad Gita, which is verse number 43. Now, what is this spiritual intelligence that Krishna is talking about? That he explains in the next chapter. So we'll stop here. All right. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Jai.
Hare
Hare Krishna Prabhupada.